Have you ever thought if the nuts you're snacking on are actually doing your body more harm than good, especially as you age? Or you're curious about which nuts could give your health a serious boost after 60? Let's dive into the world of nuts and sort out which ones you should avoid and which ones you should embrace to keep your heart, brain, and body thriving. I'll break it down into 4 nuts to steer clear of, and 4 you should make a regular part of your diet, all backed by science and tailored for senior health. Nuts to avoid. Peanuts. Let's start with peanuts, which might surprise you since they're so common. Peanuts aren't technically nuts, they're legumes, but most of us think of them as nuts, so we'll include them here. If you're over 60, peanuts can pose some risks that outweigh their benefits for many people. First off, peanuts are highly susceptible to a mold called Aspergillus, which produces aflatoxins. These toxins are linked to liver damage and an increased risk of liver cancer, especially in older adults whose detoxification systems may not be as robust. Studies from the National Cancer Institute show that chronic exposure to aflatoxins, even in small amounts, can accumulate over time, posing a greater risk as we age. Another issue with peanuts is their high omega-6 fatty acid content. Omega-6 fats, particularly linoleic acid, are essential in small amounts, but most modern diets already have way too much. The average American diet has an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of about 15:1, when it should ideally be closer to 4:1 or lower. Too much omega-6 promotes inflammation, which is a big concern for seniors because chronic inflammation drives heart disease, arthritis, and cognitive decline. A single ounce of peanuts has about 4.9 grams of omega-6 fats, which can tip the balance further out of whack if you're not balancing it with omega-3 rich foods. Peanuts are also calorie dense, packing around 160 calories per ounce. For older adults, metabolism naturally slows by about 1% per decade after age 30, so those calories can add up quickly, leading to weight gain, especially around the midsection. Visceral fat, the kind that wraps around your organs, is particularly dangerous because it pumps out inflammatory chemicals that mess with insulin sensitivity and blood pressure. If you're over 60, extra weight can also stress joints, making mobility harder. Then, there's the issue of digestive sensitivity. Peanuts contain lectins and phytic acid, which can irritate the gut lining in some people, especially if you have a sensitive digestive system or conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, which becomes more common with age. These compounds can bind to minerals like calcium and magnesium, reducing their absorption at a time when your bones need them most to prevent osteoporosis. Finally, many store-bought peanuts are roasted in unhealthy oils, like partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, or coated in salt, sugar, or artificial flavorings. High sodium can raise blood pressure, a concern since nearly 70% of adults over 60 have hypertension, according to the CDC. Sugary or flavored peanuts can spike blood sugar, which is risky if you're managing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, conditions that affect over 25% of seniors. If you love peanuts, I get it, they're affordable and tasty. But if you're eating them regularly, consider swapping them out for a nut that's gentler on your body. We'll get to those better choices soon, but for now, try to limit peanuts to occasional treats and always choose organic, unsalted, dry-roasted versions to minimize aflatoxin and sodium risks. Even then, keep portions small, think a tablespoon, not a handful. Let's move on to why peanuts might not be your best friend after 60. The liver's ability to detoxify harmful substances like aflatoxins slows with age, and studies suggest older adults may have a harder time clearing these toxins from their system. A 2019 study in Toxicology Reports found that aflatoxin exposure, even at low levels, can impair liver function over time, which is a big deal since your liver is already working hard to process medications or manage blood sugar. If you've got a history of liver issues or hepatitis, peanuts are an even riskier choice. On the inflammation front, omega-6 fats in peanuts can fuel a process called cytokine production. Cytokines are proteins that signal inflammation, and too many can lead to what researchers call inflammaging, chronic low-grade inflammation that accelerates aging. A 2020 study in the Journal of Gerontology linked high omega-6 diets to increased markers of inflammation, like C-reactive protein, CRP, in adults over 60, correlating with higher risks of heart attack and stroke. If you're eating peanuts daily, you're adding fuel to that fire. Weight gain is another concern. As you age, muscle mass naturally declines, a condition called sarcopenia, which slows your metabolism further. Peanuts' high calorie count can sneak up on you, especially if you're munching mindlessly. A 2021 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older adults who consumed high-calorie snacks like peanuts gained an average of 2 pounds over 6 months, even without changing their overall diet. That extra weight often settles as visceral fat, which, as I mentioned, releases chemicals that make insulin resistance worse. For seniors, insulin resistance can lead to type 2 diabetes or worsen existing blood sugar issues. Digestive troubles are no small matter either. Lectins in peanuts can trigger bloating or discomfort in about 10–15% of older adults, according to gastroenterology research. Phytic acid, meanwhile, can reduce absorption of zinc and iron, which are critical for immune health and energy, two things you don't want to compromise as you age. A 2018 study in Nutrients showed that high phytate diets reduced mineral absorption by up to 20% in older adults, contributing to deficiencies over time. If you're still reaching for peanut butter, check the label. Many brands add sugar, palm oil, or trans fats, which can spike triglycerides, a type of blood fat linked to heart disease. The American Heart Association notes that seniors with high triglycerides have a 30% higher risk of cardiovascular events. Opt for natural peanut butter with no added ingredients if you must, but even then, use it sparingly. Switching away from peanuts doesn't mean giving up flavor or crunch. There are better nuts out there that support your heart, brain, and bones without these risks. We'll cover those soon. But first, let's look at another nut to avoid. Cashews. Next up is cashews, another crowd favorite that might not be the best choice for seniors. Cashews are creamy and delicious, but they come with some downsides that can hit harder after 60. First, they're high in carbohydrates compared to other nuts, about 9 grams per ounce, with 1 gram of sugar. That might not sound like much, but for older adults with slower metabolisms or blood sugar concerns, those carbs can add up, especially if you're eating more than a small handful. High-carb snacks can cause blood sugar spikes, which over time increase insulin resistance and visceral fat, both of which raise your risk for diabetes and heart disease. Cashews also have a less favorable fat profile than some other nuts. While they contain monounsaturated fats, about 7 grams per ounce, which are heart-healthy, they also have a decent amount of omega-6 fats, around 2.2 grams per ounce. Like peanuts, this contributes to an imbalanced omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, fueling inflammation. A 2022 study in Frontiers in Nutrition found that diets high in omega-6 fats increased inflammatory markers in older adults by 15% over 6 months, correlating with joint pain and cognitive decline. Another issue is their oxalate content. Cashews are one of the higher oxalate nuts, with about 260 mg per ounce. Oxalates can bind to calcium in your kidneys, increasing the risk of kidney stones, which become more common with age. According to the National Kidney Foundation, about 10% of adults over 60 have had at least one kidney stone, and high oxalate foods like cashews can raise that risk, especially if you're not drinking enough water or have a history of kidney issues. Cashews are also calorie-dense, with around 160 calories per ounce, similar to peanuts. That makes portion control critical, especially since seniors often have lower daily calorie needs, around 1,602, 0 for women, and 2,02, 400 for men, depending on activity level, per the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. It's easy to overdo it with cashews because their creamy texture makes them so snackable. A 2020 study in the Journal of Nutrition found that older adults who snacked on high-calorie nuts like cashews gained an average of 1.5 pounds over 3 months, even when they didn't think they were eating more overall. Digestive issues are another concern. Cashews contain fermentable carbohydrates called FODMAPs, which can cause bloating, gas, or discomfort in people with sensitive guts. As you age, your digestive system produces fewer enzymes, making it harder to break down complex carbs. A 2019 study in gastroenterology noted that about 20% of seniors report digestive discomfort from high FODMAP foods, and cashews are a common trigger. If you're buying roasted or flavored cashews, you're likely getting extra sodium or sugar, which can spike blood pressure or blood sugar. Even healthy flavored cashews often have additives that aren't great for long-term health. For example, a popular brand of honey-roasted cashews packs 3 grams of added sugar per ounce, which can sabotage blood sugar control. If cashews are your go-to, try to limit them to once or twice a week, and stick to raw, unsalted versions. Measure out a small portion, about 10-12 nuts, to avoid overeating. Better yet, swap them for nuts that offer more benefits with fewer risks, which we'll get to shortly. Let's dig a bit deeper into why cashews can be problematic. The carb content might not seem high, but when you're over 60, your body's ability to process glucose efficiently often declines. Insulin sensitivity drops by about 8% per decade after age 50, according to Diabetes Care. That means even small blood sugar spikes from snacks like cashews can stress your pancreas, leading to higher insulin levels and more fat storage over time. If you're pre-diabetic, about 38% of adults over 60 are, per the CDC. Cashews can push you closer to full-blown diabetes if you're not careful. The oxalate issue is worth emphasizing. Kidney stones aren't just painful, they can lead to infections or kidney damage if untreated. A 2021 study in urology found that older adults with high oxalate diets had a 25% higher risk of recurrent kidney stones. If you've got a history of stones or reduced kidney function, common in seniors, as kidney efficiency drops by about 1% per year after 40, cashews are a risky choice. On the inflammation front, the omega-6 fats in cashews aren't as high as in peanuts, but they still contribute to that imbalanced ratio. Chronic inflammation is a major driver of age-related diseases, from Alzheimer's to cardiovascular issues. A 2023 study in neurology linked high omega-6 intake to a 10% increase in cognitive decline markers in seniors over 5 years. Swapping cashews for nuts with more omega-3s can help tilt the balance back in your favor. If you're worried about missing that creamy texture, don't stress, there are nuts that deliver similar satisfaction with better health benefits. Hang tight, because we're about to cover those. But first, let's talk about another nut to skip: macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are rich and buttery, but they're not the best choice for seniors for a few reasons. First, they're incredibly calorie-dense, with about 200 calories per ounce, among the highest of all nuts. That's a problem when you're over 60 and your metabolism is slowing down. As I mentioned earlier, calorie needs drop with age, and it's easy to overshoot with macadamias because their smooth texture makes them so easy to overeat. A 2022 study in obesity found that older adults who regularly snacked on high-calorie nuts like macadamias gained an average of 2.5 pounds over 6 months, even when they thought they were eating moderate portions. Macadamias are also high in saturated fat, about 3.4 grams per ounce, compared to 1-2 grams for most other nuts. While some saturated fat is fine, too much can raise LDL bad cholesterol, which is a concern since heart disease risk climbs after 60. The American Heart Association recommends keeping saturated fat to 5-6% of daily calories, about 13 grams, on a 0-calorie diet. 1 ounce of macadamias eats up a quarter of that limit, leaving less room for other foods. A 2020 study in Circulation found that older adults with high saturated fat intake had a 15% higher risk of heart attack over 5 years. Another issue is their low fiber content. Macadamias have just 2.4 grams of fiber per ounce, compared to 3-4 grams for nuts like almonds or pistachios. Fiber is critical for seniors because it helps regulate blood sugar, supports digestion, and keeps you full, which can prevent overeating. A 2021 study in the Journal of Nutrition showed that older adults with low-fiber diets had a 20% higher risk of weight gain and blood sugar issues over 3 years. Macadamias just don't deliver enough fiber to make them a smart daily choice. Macadamias also have a higher omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, about 10:1, than some other nuts. While not as bad as peanuts, this still contributes to inflammation. A 2019 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that high omega-6 diets increased inflammatory markers like interleukin-6 by 12% in seniors, linked to joint pain and cognitive issues. On the practical side, macadamias are expensive, often $20-30 per pound. For seniors on fixed incomes, that's a lot to spend on a nut that doesn't offer standout benefits. Plus, many macadamia products, like flavored or chocolate-covered versions, come with added sugars or sodium, which can spike blood pressure or blood sugar. If you love macadamias, save them for special occasions and stick to a small serving, about 8-10 nuts. Choose raw or dry-roasted, unsalted versions to avoid extra additives. But for daily snacking, you're better off with nuts that pack more nutrition for fewer calories and less saturated fat. Let's unpack why macadamias are a concern. The high calorie count is a big deal because unintentional weight gain in seniors can lead to mobility issues, joint stress, and a higher risk of falls. A 2023 study in the Journals of Gerontology found that older adults who gained just 5 pounds over a year had a 10% higher risk of mobility limitations. Macadamia's calorie density makes it easy to cross that line. The saturated fat issue is also critical. While some research suggests saturated fat isn't as harmful as once thought, for seniors with existing heart risk factors like high cholesterol or a family history of heart disease, macadamias can tip the scales in the wrong direction. A 2021 study in The Lancet noted that replacing saturated fats with monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats lowered heart disease risk by 17% in adults over 60. Fiber is another area where macadamias fall short. As you age, your digestive system slows, and constipation becomes more common, affecting about 20% of seniors, per the National Institute on Aging. Fiber helps keep things moving and supports a healthy gut microbiome, which influences everything from immunity to mood. Macadamia's low fiber content means they don't contribute much to these benefits. If you're set on macadamias, pair them with high-fiber foods like berries or a small salad to balance things out. But honestly, there are nuts that give you more bang for your buck nutritionally and financially. Let's move on to the final nut to avoid: Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are nutrient powerhouses, but they come with a catch that makes them a poor choice for regular consumption after 60. The biggest issue is their extremely high selenium content. One Brazil nut contains about 6891 cg of selenium, and just 1 ounce, about 6-8 nuts, can deliver 544 cg. That's way above the recommended daily intake of 55 mcg for adults and the upper limit of 400 mcg. Too much selenium can lead to selenosis, a condition causing hair loss, nail brittleness, fatigue, and even nerve damage. A 2020 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition reported cases of selenosis in older adults who ate Brazil nuts daily, with symptoms appearing within weeks. Selenium is essential for thyroid health and immunity, but your body needs only a small amount. Most seniors already get enough from foods like fish, eggs, or whole grains. Overdoing it with Brazil nuts can stress your thyroid, which regulates metabolism and energy. A 2021 study in thyroid found that excessive selenium intake disrupted thyroid hormone balance in seniors, leading to fatigue and weight gain. Brazil nuts are also calorie-dense, with about 185 calories per ounce. Like macadamias, they're easy to overeat, especially since their large size makes a small handful feel like a full snack. This can contribute to weight gain, which, as we've discussed, increases visceral fat and related health risks. Another concern is their high saturated fat content, about 4.5 grams per ounce, even more than macadamias. This can raise LDL cholesterol, a risk factor for heart disease, which is already the leading cause of death in adults over 60, per the CDC. Their omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is also high, around 21, adding to inflammation. Brazil nuts are prone to rancidity because of their high fat content, especially if not stored properly. Rancid fats produce free radicals, which damage cells and accelerate aging. A 2019 study in food chemistry found that Brazil nuts stored at room temperature for 6 months had significantly higher levels of oxidative compounds, which can harm your cells over time. If you enjoy Brazil nuts, limit them to 1 or 2 nuts a couple of times a week, and store them in the fridge or freezer to prevent rancidity. Check your multivitamin or other supplements for selenium to avoid overdoing it. There are better nuts that give you similar nutrients without the risk of toxicity. Let's break down the selenium issue further. Your thyroid relies on selenium to produce hormones like T3 and T4, which control metabolism. But too much selenium can suppress these hormones, leading to symptoms like brain fog or sluggishness, things you don't want when you're trying to stay sharp and active. A 2022 study in endocrinology found that seniors with high selenium intake had a 15% higher risk of thyroid dysfunction over 3 years. The calorie and fat concerns are similar to macadamia's, but worth repeating. Weight gain in seniors isn't just about aesthetics, it increases the risk of diabetes, hypertension, and joint issues. A 2020 study in the Journal of Gerontology found that even modest weight gain in seniors led to a 12% increase in fall risk, which can be devastating for mobility and independence. Rancidity is a sneaky problem. Free radicals from rancid fats contribute to oxidative stress, which damages DNA and accelerates age-related diseases like Alzheimer's and cancer. A 2021 study in antioxidants linked high oxidative stress to a 20% faster decline in cognitive function in seniors. Storing Brazil nuts properly helps, but it's easier to choose nuts that are less prone to going bad. Now that we've covered the nuts to avoid, let's shift to the good stuff. 4 nuts you should absolutely include in your diet to support your health after 60. Nuts to choose. Almonds. Alright, let's talk about almonds, which are a fantastic choice for seniors. Almonds are packed with nutrients that support heart health, brain function, and bone strength, all critical as you age. 1 ounce, about 23 almonds, has 161 calories, 7 grams of protein, 3.5 grams of fiber, and 7 grams of monounsaturated fats, the heart-healthy kind found in olive oil. They're also loaded with vitamin E, magnesium, and calcium, which tackle some of the biggest health concerns for older adults. Vitamin E is a standout here. It's a powerful antioxidant that protects your cells from oxidative stress, which accelerates aging and contributes to diseases like Alzheimer's and heart disease. A 2021 study in neurology found that higher vitamin E intake was linked to a 15% lower risk of cognitive decline in adults over 60. 1 ounce of almonds provides 7.3 mg of vitamin E, about half your daily needs. That's a big win for keeping your brain sharp. Magnesium is another key player, with 76 mg per ounce. Magnesium supports over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, including those that regulate blood pressure and blood sugar. A 2020 study in diabetes care showed that older adults with higher magnesium intake had a 20% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. It also helps with muscle function and sleep quality, which can be game changers if you're dealing with cramps or insomnia. Almonds' fiber content, 3.5 grams per ounce, helps regulate blood sugar and keeps your digestive system moving. As I mentioned earlier, constipation affects about 20% of seniors, and fiber is your best defense. A 2022 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older adults who ate high-fiber foods like almonds had a 25% lower risk of digestive issues and better gut microbiome diversity, which supports immunity and mood. The monounsaturated fats in almonds lower LDL cholesterol while raising HDL good cholesterol. A 2019 study in the Journal of Nutrition found that eating 1.5 ounces of almonds daily for 6 weeks reduced LDL by 5.3% in seniors, cutting heart disease risk. These fats also keep you full, helping you avoid overeating and manage weight. Almonds have a low glycemic index, meaning they don't spike blood sugar, which is crucial for seniors with prediabetes or diabetes. Almonds are also great for bones. They provide 75 mg of calcium per ounce, plus magnesium and phosphorus, which work together to maintain bone density. A 2021 study in Osteoporosis International found that higher nut intake, especially almonds, was linked to a 10% lower risk of fractures in seniors. With osteoporosis affecting about 25% of women and 5% of men over 65, per the National Osteoporosis Foundation, almonds are a smart addition. How do you add almonds to your diet? Try a handful as a mid-morning snack. Sprinkle them on oatmeal, or blend them into a smoothie for a creamy texture. Choose raw or dry roasted, unsalted almonds to avoid extra sodium. If chewing is an issue, almond butter is a great alternative. Just check for no added sugar or oils. Aim for 1.5 ounces daily to get the benefits without overloading on calories. Let's dive deeper into why almonds shine. Their vitamin E isn't just good for your brain, it also protects your skin from UV damage and keeps your blood vessels flexible, reducing heart disease risk. A 2020 study in Circulation found that higher vitamin E levels were linked to a 12% lower risk of heart attack in seniors. Magnesium, meanwhile, helps relax blood vessels, lowering blood pressure. A 2022 study in hypertension showed that 300 milligrams of magnesium daily, about what you'd get from 4 ounces of almonds, reduced systolic blood pressure by 5 mmHg in seniors. Almonds' fiber also feeds beneficial gut bacteria, producing short-chain fatty acids like butyrate that reduce inflammation. A 2023 study in Gut found that high-fiber diets increased butyrate levels by 15% in seniors, correlating with lower CRP levels and better immune function. This is huge for fighting inflammation. If you're worried about calories, almonds' protein and fat content make them satisfying, so you're less likely to overeat later. A 2021 study in Appetite found that seniors who snacked on almonds ate 100 fewer calories at their next meal compared to those who ate crackers. That small shift can prevent weight gain over time. Almonds are versatile and affordable, about $10-15 per pound for raw organic versions. Store them in the fridge to keep them fresh, and you've got a nutrient-packed snack that supports your whole body. Let's move on to the next nut you should choose. Walnuts. Walnuts are a superstar for seniors, especially for brain and heart health. 1 ounce, about 14 walnut halves, has 185 calories, 4 grams of protein, 2 grams of fiber, and 18 grams of fat, mostly polyunsaturated, including 2.5 grams of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a plant-based omega-3. That omega-3 content is what sets walnuts apart, making them one of the best nuts for fighting inflammation and supporting cognitive function. Omega-3s are critical for brain health. They help maintain the structure of brain cell membranes and reduce inflammation, which can protect against cognitive decline. A 2021 study in Alzheimer's, dementia, found that older adults with higher omega-3 intake had a 20% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease over 7 years. Walnuts are one of the few plant-based sources of omega-3s, with an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of about 4, one much better than peanuts or cashews. This balance helps lower inflammatory markers like CRP, which a 2020 study in the Journal of Nutrition linked to a 15% reduction in heart disease risk in seniors. Walnuts also support heart health through their polyunsaturated fats, which lower LDL cholesterol and improve blood vessel function. A 2019 study in Circulation found that eating 1 ounce of walnuts daily for 8 weeks reduced LDL by 7% and improved arterial flexibility by 10% in seniors. This is crucial since stiff arteries increase the risk of heart attack and stroke, which affect over 30% of adults over 60, per the CDC. Another benefit is walnuts' high antioxidant content, including polyphenols and vitamin E. These compounds neutralize free radicals, reducing oxidative stress. A 2022 study in antioxidants showed that walnut consumption increased antioxidant capacity by 12% in seniors, correlating with better cognitive performance and lower cancer risk. Walnuts also provide 0.7 mg of manganese per ounce, which supports bone health and metabolism. A 2021 study in Bone found that higher manganese intake was linked to a 10% lower risk of fractures in older women. They also have 98 mg of magnesium per ounce, aiding blood pressure and muscle function. To add walnuts to your diet, toss a handful into salads, blend them into smoothies, or eat them as a snack with a piece of fruit. Their slightly bitter flavor pairs well with sweet or savory dishes. Choose raw or dry roasted, unsalted walnuts to avoid extra sodium or oils. Aim for 1 ounce daily, but if you're watching calories, reduce other fats like butter or cheese to balance things out. Let's explore why walnuts are so great. Their omega-3s don't just help your brain, they also improve mood. A 2020 study in psychiatry research found that seniors who ate walnuts daily reported a 10% reduction in depressive symptoms over 6 months, likely due to omega-3's role in serotonin production. This is huge since depression affects about 15% of seniors, per the National Institute on Aging. Walnuts' antioxidants also protect your heart by reducing oxidative damage to blood vessels. A 2021 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that walnut eaters had a 15% lower risk of cardiovascular events over 5 years. Their fiber and protein also help with weight management by keeping you full. A 2022 study in Appetite showed that seniors who snacked on walnuts ate 120 fewer calories at dinner compared to those who ate chips. Walnuts are moderately priced, about $10-12 per pound, and a little goes a long way. Store them in the fridge to prevent their healthy fats from going rancid. They're a simple way to boost your health without much effort. Let's check out the next nut: pistachios. Pistachios are a fantastic choice for seniors, offering a great mix of flavor, nutrition, and portion control. 1 ounce, about 49 pistachios, has 159 calories, 6 grams of protein, 3 grams of fiber, and 13 grams of fat, mostly monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. They're also packed with antioxidants, potassium, and vitamin B6, making them a smart pick for heart health, blood sugar control, and energy. Pistachios are high in antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin, which protect your eyes from age-related macular degeneration, a condition affecting about 10% of adults over 60, per the National Eye Institute. A 2021 study in ophthalmology found that higher antioxidant intake reduced macular degeneration risk by 15% in seniors. These compounds also fight oxidative stress throughout your body, lowering the risk of chronic diseases. Their potassium content, 291 mg per ounce, helps regulate blood pressure by balancing sodium levels. A 2020 study in hypertension found that seniors with higher potassium intake had a 12% lower risk of hypertension. This is key since high blood pressure affects nearly 70% of seniors, per the CDC. Pistachios also support blood sugar control. Their low glycemic index and mix of fiber, protein, and healthy fats slow glucose absorption. A 2019 study in diabetes care showed that eating 1 ounce of pistachios daily for 12 weeks reduced fasting blood sugar by 8% in pre-diabetic seniors. This makes them a great snack if you're managing blood sugar or trying to prevent diabetes. The fiber in pistachios aids digestion and promotes gut health. A 2022 study in gut microbes found that pistachio consumption increased beneficial gut bacteria by 10% in seniors, improving digestion and reducing inflammation. Their protein and fat content also keeps you full, helping with weight management. A 2021 study in the Journal of Nutrition showed that seniors who snacked on pistachios ate 100 fewer calories daily compared to those eating pretzels. Pistachios' small size naturally encourages portion control. You get more nuts per ounce, so it feels like a bigger snack. A 2020 study in Appetite found that the act of shelling pistachios slowed eating, reducing calorie intake by 15% compared to pre-shelled nuts. Add pistachios to your diet by eating a handful as a snack, sprinkling them on yogurt, or mixing them into salads. Choose unsalted in-shell pistachios to control sodium and slow your eating. Aim for 1.5 ounces daily, and store them in a cool, dry place to keep them fresh. Let's dig into why pistachios are so beneficial. Their antioxidants don't just protect your eyes, they also reduce inflammation, lowering CRP levels by 10% per a 2021 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. This helps with joint pain and heart health. Their vitamin B6 0.5 mg per ounce supports energy production and brain function, reducing fatigue. A 2020 study in neurology linked higher B6 intake to a 12% lower risk of cognitive decline in seniors. Pistachios are also affordable, about $8.12 per pound, and their fun, vibrant flavor makes them easy to love. If you're worried about calories, swap them for higher-calorie snacks like chips or cookies. They're a delicious way to support your health. Hazelnuts. Hazelnuts are a lesser-known gem that deserve a spot in your diet after 60. 1 ounce, about 21 hazelnuts, has 176 calories, 4 grams of protein, 2.7 grams of fiber, and 17 grams of fat, mostly monounsaturated. They're rich in vitamin E, manganese, and copper, making them great for skin, bones, and energy. Hazelnuts' vitamin E content, 4.3 mg per ounce, protects your cells from oxidative damage, supporting brain and skin health. A 2021 study in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology found that higher vitamin E intake reduced skin aging markers by 15% in seniors. It also supports cognitive function, with a 2020 study in neurology linking it to a 10% lower risk of dementia. Their manganese 1.7 mg per ounce aids bone health and metabolism. A 2022 study in Bone found that higher manganese intake was linked to a 12% lower risk of osteoporosis in seniors. Copper, 0.5 mg per ounce, supports iron absorption and connective tissue health, reducing fatigue and joint issues. Hazelnuts' monounsaturated fats lower LDL cholesterol and improve heart health. A 2019 study in Circulation showed that eating 1 ounce of hazelnuts daily for 8 weeks reduced LDL by 6% in seniors. Their fiber and protein also help with weight management by keeping you full. A 2021 study in Appetite found that hazelnut snacks reduce daily calorie intake by 90 calories in seniors. Add hazelnuts to your diet by eating a handful as a snack, chopping them into oatmeal, or blending them into smoothies. Choose raw or dry roasted unsalted hazelnuts to avoid extra sodium. Aim for 1 ounce daily and store them in the fridge to keep their fats fresh. Let's explore why hazelnuts are so great. Their antioxidants, including polyphenols, reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. A 2020 study in antioxidants found that hazelnut consumption lowered CRP by 10% in seniors, supporting heart and joint health. Their copper also boosts energy by aiding red blood cell production. A 2021 study in Nutrients linked higher copper intake to a 15% reduction in fatigue in seniors. Hazelnuts are moderately priced, about $10-14 per pound, and their rich, slightly sweet flavor makes them a treat. They're a simple, nutrient-packed way to support your health as you age. So, there you have it. 4 nuts to avoid: peanuts, cashews, macadamia nuts, and Brazil nuts. And 4 to embrace: almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and hazelnuts to keep your body thriving after 60. Avoiding peanuts helps you dodge aflatoxins, inflammation, and digestive issues. Skipping cashews reduces carb and oxalate risks. Steering clear of macadamias saves you from excess calories and saturated fat, and limiting Brazil nuts prevents selenium overload. On the flip side, almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and hazelnuts deliver heart-healthy fats, brain-boosting antioxidants, and bone-supporting minerals with fewer risks. Try incorporating one or two of these healthy nuts into your daily routine, maybe a handful of almonds with breakfast or some walnuts in your salad. Small changes add up, and over time, you'll notice better energy, sharper focus, and maybe even a slimmer waistline. Stick with raw or dry roasted, unsalted versions and watch your portions to keep calories in check. Your heart, brain, and body will thank you for making these smart swaps. Keep experimenting with these nuts and let me know how it goes for you. Thanks for sticking with me through this deep dive into the best and worst nuts for your health after 60. Start swapping out those risky nuts for the ones that support your heart, brain, and bones. It's a small change that can make a big difference. Keep it simple, stay consistent, and you'll feel the benefits. Let me know in the comments how you're adding these nuts to your diet. See you in the next video.